Well, I'm delighted to have with me Tim Glover in the studio. It's taken a bit of time getting you here, Mr. Glover. We haven't even done our yearly chat. You always had things on, but anyway, I'll forgive you.
It's been quite a busy week.
Busy week.
Tuesday. And I'm sorry I'm in green.
You're in green.
Green screen. I know. It's World Mental Health.
Could be looking at all sorts of odd colours on this thing. Tuesday, after the Chief Minister did his bit, you were the first on your feet and made an incredibly passionate speech. As I said to people, you really brought me to tears because you were just saying, what the heck is going on? And I thought there was going to be a sort of sway that way, and there was this moment that finally everyone was going to hold their hands up and probably just say, right, enough's enough, let's get this sorted. Alas, there was three of you, I think, that and you were the three that met Dr Ranson, right? So should we start with that? Because did that affect you? Because you met her on the Saturday, I think, before the Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it was John Wannenberg that requested seeing her. It took her, understandably, quite a long time to get back, but then she also indicated she was prepared to meet with not just John, but with myself and with Claire Christian. And it was all very last minute. It was, can you make tomorrow afternoon? We didn't get the time until quite late, so it was Saturday afternoon. I couldn't stay for the whole of it because I'm president of the Manx Hockey Association and they had their annual dinner and prize presentation. But I think I was there for about an hour and a half. I left 5:30, and I think John and Claire were there till roughly 7:30. So it was a very long meeting. But
anything you can tell us, or was it off the record sort of stuff just between you three?
Yeah, but it was clear she's been put through the mill.
Yeah.
And from my point of view, witnessing a very intelligent, professional woman, how she is now, having met her previously as well, there's no doubt it's taken an immense toll on her, and that was upsetting. It's the only word really I can.
Well, you were full of so much emotion
that.
when you read that.
It was really upsetting to see what this whole process has done to a very intelligent lady.
You're going to be one of the sort of people now that's going to be on this, I'm guessing. This is now going to, because you've resigned from government.
Well,
much to Mr. Cannon's sort of, well, you can be a backbencher and carp for all you like, I think.
I think if the only way I feel we can get to the bottom of this is to have the trust of the public to come to you. And I think the public, and this is how low it's got, anyone who's connected to any arm of government, and that includes departmental members, are just not being trusted by the public at the moment. And I've got a clean break now, and since then I have had into double figures examples of whistleblowing cases brought to my attention.
Welcome to my world. And it's not just me. Anybody that's now seen as a potential beacon of light.
Yeah, I can use that as an example of where things are going wrong, but obviously I can't get as a politician involved in individual cases. Never would dream of that. But people have felt they can trust me with what their story is. Dr. Ranson felt she could trust me, and trust is everything, not just in politics but in life. Trust is huge. So and that trust at the moment, you know, I don't think some of our leading politicians are reading the room and actually have a grasp of just how fractured the relationship is with the public at the moment.
Of course, in your circumstance, you started this whole journey as a journalist. When we were in that room with her, that few times that she was there, and then.
Well, she was only there that time, wasn't it? It was
once.
Only once,
and
I remember it distinctly because she was warned. It was Mother's Day, Mothering Sunday, wasn't it? It was coming up that weekend, and she was saying, "Please don't go round and mix with your family and stay at home." And that was the first real inkling we had of, look, this is. I mean, we could work out what was coming. We were seeing pictures from Italy and Spain by then, weren't we? So we knew what was coming. But that was the first time we heard it in those sort of stark terms, and it left a big impression. But we requested, didn't we? Could we see more of Dr Ranson?
We were actually asked, who do we want? And we would like to see her.
And we didn't get to see her again.
Of course, what we didn't realise at the time was, just a day or two later from that, I presume it was, getting the timelines right, that she was going to make this big presentation to Coleman, and therefore also do the press conference with this video that had been made, which now seems to have completely disappeared. But that's another matter, I suppose. Well, it's not really, but...
Well, that needs to be found.
Well, Greenlight, it was filmed at Greenlight Television, and they always keep records. I mean, the servers cannot get rid of it because they work on things, so it must exist somewhere. But we've asked and asked and asked. But that what I'm trying to say, that was going to be a moment, wasn't it? And you know as much as me that it was stopped. It was 3 civil servants appear to have got involved and diluted it, I think is a polite terminology, before it was released to us and maybe to Coleman. But how do you even contemplate that sort of thing going on? This is the top medical person on our man, not being allowed to give her views, and then civil servants get involved in altering it or diluting it. Let's keep to diluting as a polite way. What do you think?
Well, that needs to be investigated and investigated thoroughly. Yeah. And just doing second best or a wishy-washy investigation is just not going to cut the mustard. It has to be a thorough and independent investigation.
Right. So are you happy with what's been set up then?
To a degree, but I still can see that people will say, look, the politicians picked who's on the committee, and they're going to pick who the judge is. And as I said right at the beginning, that trust is so fractured at the moment that I don't think the perception of the public will be that it's independent.
Well, we had the health minister also on his feet to give his thing, and then there was this moment of saying it wasn't him, it was the new chief, the health minister at the time, which was Rob Collister. Rob Collister got to his feet and was trying to verify exactly what was going on. It seems a mess, if to say the least, there about timelines and whose responsibility was what, and if again civil servants maybe overstep their remit or not. What do you tell us about?
Well, there has certainly been some of us who've been saying, we were actually saying, please don't put Mr Hooper out there just yet. Wait for the whole appeal process to have passed, and then by all means, because we need to hear both sides of the story, that's only fair. But I thought the timing was a little bit premature.
And his
for
tone?
The health minister coming out. Tone wasn't great, and to be quite honest, it asked more questions than it answered, and those questions are now being asked.
Well, the one that I keep asking now is about the sex poll thing, because he basically said that's the report, and we take that on board and let's move on. Again, I'm jaw-dropping stuff, because there's got to be enough doubt in there, surely.
There is doubt, and I think the actual process that the Ranson team were going through, it was really just to get the figure and sum sorted. I think they were exhausted by the whole process at the time. So I understand you can put the argument out there that it was done to the terms and conditions of what it was done, but I think there are more questions.
Well, we haven't got the whole lot yet. I mean, I did ask the terms and conditions, which took an FOI to even instigate. I was told then they needed more time. I went to do all these interviews, one of them at Manx Radio, and before that interview actually got to air, they suddenly released most of it, but not all of it. And again, more massive questions about who set up that inquiry, whose name was on it, who was going to be interviewed, and probably more important, who wasn't going to be interviewed. I mean, do you want to pick up on that?
I think you said it all.
I know. We have got protection here.
That really is why this, full and independent investigation is now required.
And that's my point. You got the health minister not saying that. I mean, I don't know. It seems remarkable that there was no thought that maybe, just maybe, there has to be more work done to find the truth. And while we're still waiting for FOIs to come in, and boy, the FOIs I think are flying around but delayed massively, there's something that's not getting out in the public domain as yet.
Well, let's see what those FOIs bring out and then take it from there. But, I have to say, you've done a very, very good job in pushing this.
Well,
you're almost living and breathing it.
It has been quite over-consuming, I think.
But all I will say is, if government doesn't move, the noise gets louder. And that's my perception. The noise is getting louder.
Yeah. Even when they set up the committee and Claire Christian could have gone on it, they still at the last moment, it was just down to one person.
It looked like Claire was going to get on at one point.
Do you know when it went? Because one person.
When it went to two.
Yeah. It's a very interesting system. I'd never really watched it before, but
so again, there's that doubt there, isn't there?
It's down to two: Stuart Peters and her.
Yeah.
And when it was just two people in the frame, they couldn't put her on it, and yet, and I've said it before. Clearly, wouldn't you want to put the person who's probably going to be the most into this whole thing? Okay, she's going to be awkward in the sense that she's going to ask some really difficult questions. Correct, and I'm sure Stuart Peters is going to do a great job. But
I'm sure the committee will, and I'm sure members will be talking to them about what they expect from it. John Warrenberg obviously couldn't go on it. No. There was a conflict there with his family.
It must be the most bonkers thing when he's got his brother up there as the AG and he's down there, and his speech was very good, and he didn't actually go as far as saying the AG in any part of it, but he did lay a mass amount of criticism out there about the way things are handled, which we can assume includes probably the AGs. I mean, have you got anything? How do you deal with it?
I couldn't go on it because I'd spent, albeit a short term, in Cabinet Office, so to my mind that compromised me. And in fact, when you looked at who was in which departments, who was in departments in the last administration, there were very few members they could pick from to have it truly. So should it be a Tynwald event, or there were no conflicts? And of course, one of the nominations you saw was Dawn Kinnish, and she very bravely stood up and said what she said, and why she felt she couldn't be part of the process.
She looked like she'd be quite good as well on that.
She would have been, but she recognised, look, this has got to be cleaner than white to the public.
How do you feel now following Tynwald on Tuesday? Your new position of being a troublemaker, because that's what you're going to be.
That's what we'll be painted as, but I don't accept that, and we're, starting to hear a narrative that. We're attacking the civil service and everything else. We're not. There's so many good workers that are in the public sector there and work for government. And I've written to the Department for Infrastructure. I was in on yesterday morning, so I went and spoke to the chief officer there, Emily Curfey, and was allowed to do a little tour around the sea terminal and just say goodbye, and it was very sad. I didn't really want to move, but I've also written to Emily and sought permission, and I believe she has circulated my words around all the infrastructure staff, and I'm making clear to them this is nothing to do with any gripe I've got with infrastructure. This is merely and purely a political decision on my part.
And is this forever for this administration, or will you reconsider when this gets sorted
Things
out?
have got to improve, and it's my drive now is going to be, and I do get the fact they are trying and change government culture, but there's an awful lot of work to do there. And I think if I just read part of this, I have said in the email that public trust with politicians with any tie to the current administration is as low as I can have ever known, and that includes 24 years at Manx Radio. Right. To illustrate this, I've already received a significant number of whistleblowing communications since resigning, something I wouldn't have been aware of before, I believe. But I've said it's not an easy fix. There seems to be a culture of fear from the bottom up. The whistleblowing procedure needs to be fair and even-handed so employees can raise issues of concern without any fear. And that managers as well, it's the other way round. It's managers need to be free to do their jobs as well in a fair and proper way without fear of staffing consequences. So you've got a situation at the moment where the workers are fearful for raising any wrongdoing that they see. But the managers are fearful of managing in case it's a mess. And that's what needs sorting. And that's going to take a lot to turn around. But I've thanked them then
Okay.
I've been made very welcome at the department. I've loved working there, and I've made it clear to them it was nothing to do with any issue I had with their staff there.
You know what's going to happen now?
And I wish them well for the future.
Glover's going to have an easy time now. He's got nothing to do.
There's plenty
you
to do.
You don't get a pay cut like you used to do in the old days. So
Do you know what? That always got thrown, didn't it? That
you stay in something just to keep money up.
Staying there to
well, there
isn't anymore. And I did say that I would go in there without fear or favour.
Yeah.
And that was part of my campaign.
What do you think of the BMA and what they said, and the implications this has for anyone who reads this or watches this around the world who's thinking about coming here to work?
That's serious, but that's the BMA's view, isn't it? We've got to hear.
And they've got other problems in other countries, by the way. So
it's not unique to just here.
But this is their biggest payout so far, isn't it? Sorry.
And I'm pretty sure that the Department of Health will be wanting to speak with them and get round the table. And I mean, the offer was there to work with Manx Care and the Department of Health and try and sort things out.
Because it's only 10 years ago David Anderson had all that hoo-ha. Because literally 10 years to the next month it is, because I'm looking back over 10 years. And he basically stood down to me because of then there was all these doctors who wrote a big letter. So this is nothing new either, which is my point, which is also disturbing, isn't it? And all, where are we going with Manx Care to set up this whole new organisation and to deal with this?
Well, it's the old cliched phrase, isn't it? It'll be trotted out 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah. Lessons will be learned. They don't appear to be. That's
a drinking game when I hear that.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Okay, so just to wrap this up, where does Tim Glover go from here, besides now being the saviour of the universe and welcome to the club?
No,
but you know what I mean. Like you've already said you've had lots of people onto you, but what?
That's painting a picture. I'm hopeful of maybe going and talking to each of the departments and finding out what issues are there, and I just want to gather the full picture here. But I'm saying I'm not going to be part of a government department and part of anything to do with this administration, was how I phrased it. But on this area, trying to change the culture, I'm more than happy to help. It's really, really important. And they have to get this. Unless they sort this out and get government working efficiently and in a nice, professional way, all the aims and aspirations are much harder to achieve.
Will this take Tim Glover having to walk into the police station to make a complaint and stop police proceedings? So, because, as they said, they can't get hold of Magson unless there's a criminal thing. That was harsh to hear, but we've known that for a long time. You can't get these people to come back to Alman. It's incredible.
That is, not a good situation.
So would you be the one that does it? Because anyone go in to report a crime?
Of course they can, and if I had to, yes I would. But
we're not there yet?
Not there yet, no. And my remarks really about get the police in or an independent review, a commission, were really, the statement from Dr Ranson herself at the conclusion of this. Wrongdoing has gone unchallenged, harm has occurred, not just to me but to others, and I believe there is avoidable loss of life. So that's why I made that remark within Tynwald.
My favourite line is, she only wanted her job back. You just can't make this stuff up. Well, thanks for coming, Tim, anyway. Anything else that I've missed here that you need to bring into the conversation, by the way, because sometimes it's such a wide amount of things going on. And
but all I will say is if, there is that let's move on, and this is really important. It's not going to go away, in my view. I
mean, should the Chief Minister have gone to see Dr Ranson in person rather than that? Because you were quite scornful of that letter. It was a typed letter to signed, and then it went to the lawyers.
It was walked down the street to the lawyers.
Goodness,
and the advocates.
Yeah. So again, missed time, missed thought, miscalculated. What was meant to be the best thing? Go and see her in person?
Even a handwritten letter posted to it. I don't think Dr Ranson would have accepted a meeting with the Chief Minister.
Right. And will you be keeping in touch with her, or how do you leave that now? So
yes, they've communicated to me saying, well done with what you said. We now know we've got somebody that we can trust.
There's been nothing quite like this. I mean, that's the whole thing, and this is where they still don't. And you said this already.
It's this word trust again.
It just could go away, and it's not going away. It's just getting bigger and bigger, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the government and this administration are going to have to lance that boil if they're going to be able to make progress elsewhere. That's how big it is.